out with the papers. I don't know if she knows much about fertilizer, but she does know a lot about France and French politics. And the papers today are focusing, aren't they, Dipti, on that alliance between the French Socialist Party and the far left for the parliamentary elections.
Well, that alliance still needs to be validated through an internal party vote, but it seems like Jean-Luc Mélenchon, the far-left leader's wishes are coming true. He, of course, finished a respectable third in the presidential elections, and he's been really calling for all the left-wing parties to unite in the parliamentary elections to challenge Emmanuel Macron. Now, after the Greens and the Communists, it appears that the Socialists are on board with this idea, something that L'Humanité, the communist paper, is really happy about. They say it's a new beginning for France's left. There's jubilation too in Libération, another left-leaning paper that says after the Greens and Socialists agreed to ally with Mélenchon, now the Greens and Communists rather, now the Socialists too, it's all sort of anything's possible now in those parliamentary elections. The editors of Libé actually call it an historic alliance, but they wonder just how historic will it be? After all, this left-wing alliance will really be playing out through the war in Ukraine. And we know that Mélenchon is and has been for the past 15 years a Eurosceptic. He's been in the past admiring of Vladimir Putin as well. And 3 days of negotiations will not erase all of this, Libé says.
What about some of the conservative French press? What are they saying?
Well, they're far more critical of the alliance. Note the wording in Le Figaro's headline today. They say that Mélenchon has subjected the Greens and Socialists to the far left. The editors of the paper today saying that, you know, the French centre-right were very quick to distance themselves from the extreme far right, whereas the centre-left is very happy to court the far-left extremists. The reality of Mélenchon's politics will be crazy taxes, social sovereignty, and apocalyptic environmental politics. L'Opinion, another right-wing daily, meanwhile, notes that this is not a program of a left-wing coalition. It's a program of, an opposition movement to Emmanuel Macron. And because even they don't believe that they can win, they're promoting a wildly implausible program that will be really difficult to implement.
Now, let's have some sports for you. One team is on the lips of all the sports papers today. It's Real Madrid.
That's right. Real Madrid grabbed a thrilling and improbable last-minute victory and won on aggregate, sending the Spanish side into the final yet again of the Champions League. An enthralling match, surrealist. That's what the French sports paper L'Équipe says. Going to great pains to underline its clever play on words in the headline today, underlining Real.
Glad they did that.
Yes, thanks for pointing it out, L'Équipe. Marca, the Spanish sports paper, says only God could explain such an astonishing victory. The paper calling it the greatest night in the history of Real Madrid's home stadium.
Now, cross your legs. Here's something that will make you feel very old. The iconic film Basic Instinct, where there wasn't much crossing of legs. It turns 30 this year.
I guess you've seen the movie then.
I may have done a while ago.
Well, the film was released in France on May the 8th, 1992, so it's almost been 30 years. Of course, it was a culture-shifting film starring Michael Douglas, a harried alcoholic cop, and who can forget her, the femme fatale, then a little-known Sharon Stone, who, thanks to her performance in this movie, became a bona fide star. The film was controversial for several reasons. You know, it's sexually explicit content. You mentioned it, that famous uncrossing of the legs scene. It was also very problematic, at least for gay rights activists, in its portrayal of a bisexual femme fatale who was kind of psychotic, and women's rights activists who say that, who sort of opposed the portrayal of women being dangerous and smart women not being able to be trusted. Basic Instinct was, quote, pure joyous trash. That's what The Independent says. Nonsense, in the words of its director, but lucrative nonsense. It cost about $50 million to make and earned 7 times as much worldwide. A very fascinating read from the British The Independent this morning.
Yeah, making you feel old anyway. Finally from Dipti, we spoke, if you were with us yesterday, about robo-chefs in the press review, you may remember. Now, Dipti's bringing us some robo-wine critics.
That's right.
More bizarre.
I know. This is using artificial intelligence. So a group of researchers recently developed an artificial intelligence algorithm that's capable of reviewing different wines. So basically like a robot sommelier, if you like. The co-developer of the algorithm explained to the Scientific American Journal that most wine reviews done by humans, use a pretty consistent but limited vocabulary bank. And so to create this database, they fed their AI program about 125,000 reviews from Wine Enthusiast magazine to really get a grasp of all the terminology.
Yeah.
And when they tested the reviews, test subjects couldn't differentiate between the wine reviews that had been created by the robot and the ones that had been created by humans.
Oh, there you go.
And it's hoped that the software could give humans, perhaps in the future, a template from which to work. It must be noted that robots cannot actually taste the wine. They still rely on humans tasting and reviewing the wine in order to then improve on those reviews. So sommeliers need not whine about losing their jobs yet. Sorry.
Yeah.
Besides, anyway,
Thank
there's no fun in being an AI robot. You don't even get to drink the wine.
When you started off, I thought, I want to be that robot, but actually the robot doesn't drink the wine.
Exactly. So what's the fun in that?
Very good, isn't it? Dipsy, thanks. Dipsy with the papers on France 24.